When she goes silent, it messes with your head. You start overthinking, wondering what she's doing, if she's talking to someone else, if she's already moved on. But what you don't see is that silence doesn't always mean she's forgotten you. In many cases, silence means she's feeling everything, just not showing it. When someone truly felt something real, they don't erase it overnight. Even if she's not reaching out, you're still on her mind. Every moment she spends avoiding the urge to message you is a moment she's thinking about you. Silence is an absence, it's tension, it's emotion, sitting quietly beneath the surface. She may not text you, but she remembers your voice. She remembers your energy, your presence, the way you carried yourself when you were together, those little moments, your tone when you spoke, the calmness you brought, the way you made her feel safe. Those things don't disappear. They replay when she least expects it. Maybe she sees something that reminds her of you. Maybe she hears a song or drives past a place you went together. She'll smile for a second, then shake her head trying to bury it. But the thought still lingers. That's how the mind works. When emotion runs deep, the thing is, she's not reaching out because she's trying to protect her pride. She wants to appear strong, to seem like she's moved on, like she's in control. But deep down, there's a war between what she feels and what she wants to show. She's thinking about what you're doing, who you're with, and how you're handling the silence. If she senses that you're lost without her, she feels validated. But if she senses that you're grounded, calm, and not chasing, that's when the curiosity begins. That's when she starts wondering if maybe she lost something valuable. You see, emotional silence doesn't erase emotional memory. It amplifies it. The less contact there is, the more she starts to feel the weight of your absence. When you're no longer available to her, she can't feed off your energy anymore, and that absence becomes louder than any words you could say. People often realize someone's value only when that presence is gone. That's why your silence, your composure, your refusal to reach out too soon all carry power. Every day that you hold that line, you strengthen your image in her mind. This is why you can't panic when she doesn't reach out. You have to understand that that silence is part of her process too. She's processing emotions just like you are, only she's doing it in her own way. Maybe she's trying to convince herself she's fine. Maybe she's talking to friends, pretending she's over it. But behind closed doors, when everything goes quiet, that's when your presence hits her the hardest. That's when memories start to replay and emotions begin to resurface. The worst thing you can do is break that silence out of insecurity, because every time you reach out too soon, you reset her emotions. You remind her that she still has control, that she doesn't need to miss you because you're still there. But when you stay silent, when you stay focused on your growth, she's left with nothing but thoughts. And those thoughts are what build curiosity and desire. Silence is not weakness, it's the loudest message you can send without saying a word. It says you respect yourself. It says you're not waiting around. It says you trust your energy enough to let time reveal the truth. So don't mistake her silence for indifference. She might not be reaching out, but you're still living rent-free in her mind. Because when someone's energy truly impacts you, no amount of distance can erase the memory of how that felt. When she doesn't reach out, it's easy to think she's completely done. You tell yourself she doesn't care, that she's forgotten you, that she's already moved on. But in reality, silence isn't always disinterest. Sometimes it's a strategy. She's waiting to see if you'll break first, waiting to see if you'll fold under the pressure and reach out. It's not that she doesn't want to talk. It's that she wants to see what you'll do when she doesn't. She's observing your energy without saying a word. Because for many women, silence isn't distance, it's observation. She wants to see if you're still emotionally tied to her. She wants to know if she still holds power over your thoughts. Every minute you resist reaching out, every day you stay silent, she feels that absence, and that absence forces her to question her assumptions about you. She starts to wonder why you're so calm, why you're not reacting, why you're not chasing. In her mind, she expected you to break first, to reach out just to feel close again. But when you don't, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, she's the one feeling the uncertainty. When you're quiet, she starts to imagine what's going through your mind. Is he thinking about me? Has he already moved on? Does he even care anymore? Those questions start echoing in her head, and that's when curiosity begins to build. Silence flips the power dynamic. What she used to take for granted suddenly becomes a mystery. When someone can't read you anymore, they can't control the emotional direction of the connection. and that uncertainty draws their attention back. This is exactly why staying calm is so powerful. Most men can't handle silence. They confuse peace with rejection and end up chasing just to feel reassured. But every time you reach out first, you prove that she still has the upper hand. You tell her without saying it that you're still emotionally attached, that she's still in control of your emotions. But when you resist that urge, when you hold your line and don't seek validation, your energy changes. You stop operating from neediness and start moving from strength. And that shift is something she can feel even from a distance. Understand something. She's not ignoring you just to hurt you. She's testing your emotional strength. She wants to see if you can hold your composure when the situation feels uncertain, because composure equals confidence. It's proof that you have control over your emotions, not the other way around. The man who can remain unshaken when someone pulls away is the man who stands out. Because that kind of calmness comes from self-respect, not ego. While she's staying silent, she's observing your behavior indirectly. Maybe she checks your social media. Maybe she asks mutual friends about you. Maybe she just replays moments in her head. But what she's really searching for is your emotional reaction. She wants to know if her absence is affecting you. And the moment she senses that you're not chasing, not posting out of desperation, not begging for attention, she feels that shift. That's when her curiosity starts turning into attraction again, because mystery is magnetic. When you don't reach out, it forces her to face her own emotions without using your attention as comfort. She begins to realize that the silence she thought would give her power is now making her feel uneasy, and that's when her thoughts start circling back to you. So understand this. She may be silent, but that doesn't mean she's disconnected. She's watching, wondering, waiting. Every moment you hold your frame, you remind her of your strength. Every day you stay composed, you reclaim your power, because the man who doesn't break the silence first isn't being cold. He's being in control, and that control is what makes her start missing you more than she expected. When distance enters the picture, something powerful starts to happen. See, when you were around her every day, she didn't have to think about you. You were already there. She didn't need to reflect on what she had because it was right in front of her. But when you're gone, when the messages stop, when the energy that once surrounded her suddenly disappears, that's when reflection begins. Emotional distance is not just physical space, it's mental clarity. It forces her to see what she once overlooked, to feel what she once ignored, to question what she took for granted. When you remove your presence, you remove her comfort. She no longer has the reassurance of your attention. The stability that she once leaned on is gone, and that emptiness makes her mind start replaying moments. She'll remember the times you laughed together, the times you understood her without her even explaining, the times your presence made her feel safe. And now, without that, she starts realizing the emotional weight of what you provided. That's what distance does. It magnifies value. When something constant is gone, the mind starts to notice the silence left behind. At first, she may distract herself. She may talk to friends, post more online, or even meet new people just to fill that void. But those distractions fade fast because they don't replace the emotional connection. They only cover it up. You can't replace energy that was genuine with attention that's temporary. It's like putting a bandage over something deeper. It hides it for a while, but the emptiness remains underneath. When she realizes that other people don't bring her the same sense of calm or connection, she starts reflecting. She begins comparing, not because she wants to, but because it happens naturally. Every interaction reminds her of how different it feels, how rare that energy was, how grounded you were. That's the power of distance. It creates perspective, and perspective is what wakes people up. She might not admit it out loud, but she feels that shift. When someone used to your consistency suddenly steps away, it forces them to evaluate the balance of their emotions. She starts thinking about how she acted, how she responded, and whether she pushed away something stable just because she didn't understand its value at the time. These thoughts don't come instantly. They grow quietly over time. Every night when the world slows down, those thoughts replay stronger. That's when reflection becomes real. And here's the truth. Your silence during this period is what fuels that reflection. If you try to remind her, if you chase, if you keep showing up, she never gets the chance to feel your absence. She never gets to miss you because you're still there trying to prove something. But when you stay focused on yourself, when you redirect your energy toward growth, she starts to feel that emotional distance more deeply. It's not that you're ignoring her, it's that you're no longer orbiting around her. You've stepped into your own world, and that's when she realizes how empty hers feels without your energy in it. People think being distant pushes someone away, but in reality, it brings truth to the surface. It reveals what's real and what's just emotional dependency. The ones who genuinely felt something will come to terms with it. They'll start to feel the weight of what they lost. That's the paradox. The further you pull back, the closer they start to feel to you emotionally, because absence creates curiosity, and curiosity turns into reflection. So when she's quiet, don't assume she's not thinking. When she doesn't reach out, don't assume she doesn't care. Silence and distance don't erase emotions, they amplify them. The more space you give, the more her mind fills it with thoughts of you. That's how distance transforms into connection again. Not through chasing, but through letting her feel your absence deeply enough to remember your value. When your focus shifts away from her and back toward yourself, something changes. Not just in your life, but in your energy. You stop moving from a place of reaction and start moving from a place of direction. You're no longer checking your phone every 5 minutes, wondering if she's thinking about you. You're no longer chasing validation from someone who once gave it freely. Instead, you begin to channel that same energy into your purpose, your growth, your peace. And when that happens, she feels it even without you saying a single word. Energy doesn't need communication to be noticed. It's something that radiates naturally. When you're no longer emotionally available the way you used to be, that absence doesn't go unnoticed. You become on how she perceives you. You start realizing that your worth never came from her attention. It came from your consistency, your mindset, your mission. That's the energy she starts to feel when she thinks about you. She starts remembering the version of you that was driven, composed, and confident, not the one who was desperate for answers. And even though she may not reach out, that emotional recognition starts working in her mind. She begins to feel that shift on a subconscious level. Something's different about you, and that difference makes her curious again. When your tone changes, when your presence feels more certain, it silently communicates something powerful. You've grown. You've outgrown emotional reactions, outgrown overthinking, outgrown needing someone to validate you. And that energy, that self-assuredness, becomes more attractive than any words ever could, because at your core you've become unshakable. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself more. People can sense energy even through silence. When you used to text out of anxiety, that energy was felt. When you used to overthink and chase validation, that was felt too. But now, when you've pulled back and centered yourself, that's also felt. There's something undeniably powerful about someone who no longer seeks attention, but commands it simply through presence. That's what she feels. A subtle yet undeniable shift in how you carry yourself. It creates mystery, it creates respect, and most importantly, it creates emotional gravity. So, don't underestimate how deeply your personal growth can be felt by the one who used to know your patterns. When you stop trying to prove you've moved on and actually start living like you have, your silence gains power. Your composure becomes your language. Without saying a thing, you're showing her what evolution looks like. She sees the shift, she feels the calm, and somewhere deep down it makes her think about you more. Not because you're chasing, but because you've finally stopped. That's the paradox of emotional power. The less you try to show change, the more it's felt. She may not be reaching out, but she's noticing everything. And the version of you that no longer seeks her approval will be the one that leaves the strongest imprint on her mind. The moment you stop trying to be constantly available, everything starts to shift. When you pull your attention back and stop giving her access to your energy, curiosity begins to take root in her mind. She starts wondering what happened to the version of you that used to text first, that used to respond right away, that used to always be there. Suddenly she's faced with a new reality. She can't predict you anymore, and unpredictability is what triggers emotional pull. People crave what they can't easily figure out. When you become less predictable, you become more powerful in her thoughts. Most men make the mistake of thinking constant communication equals connection. They assume that being there 24/7 proves value, but real connection comes from polarity, that balance between closeness and space. When you stop being always available, you create a space where mystery grows, and mystery is what creates emotional gravity. When she doesn't know what you're thinking or what you're doing, her mind starts filling in the blanks. That's when imagination takes over. And imagination is far more powerful than any message you could send. She starts checking your social media a little more. She wonders why you haven't viewed her story. She notices you're not liking her posts anymore. She may act like it doesn't matter, but deep down, she's noticing the silence. She's noticing your absence, and that absence becomes louder every day you stay detached. Detachment isn't about ignoring her, it's about removing your emotional dependency. It's about understanding that your value doesn't come from how much you give. It comes from how much control you have over your attention. When you detach, you start reclaiming that control. You stop responding to every emotional impulse. You stop letting her silence dictate your mood. You stop chasing validation from someone who's trying to test your patience. That level of composure doesn't just build strength, it builds attraction, because the truth is, the moment you stop needing her, that's when she starts feeling the need for you again. When she can no longer predict your next move, she starts to feel uncertainty. And uncertainty is what creates emotional investment. You become the question in her mind that she can't answer. She starts to wonder if you've moved on, if you're talking to someone else, if you even think about her anymore. And all of those questions come from one place: curiosity. That curiosity was born from your silence, from your detachment, from your self-control. You're not proving anything. You're not posting quotes or trying to make her jealous. You're simply focused on yourself, and that alone disrupts her emotional rhythm. Understand this. Attention is energy. When you give it away too freely, people start to take it for granted. But when you hold it back, people start to crave it. Your attention becomes valuable when it's not easily accessed. That's what detachment creates value. You become the calm in the chaos, the silence in the noise, the one she can't fully read anymore. And that uncertainty forces her to think. She may tell herself she's fine, but deep down she's questioning why you're not chasing anymore. That's when curiosity turns into reflection. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring differently. You care about your peace, your growth, your discipline. You stop needing to prove your worth and start embodying it. You begin to move in silence, not to play games, but because you're no longer ruled by emotion. That shift in energy changes everything, not just how she sees you, but how you see yourself. So remember, your detachment is not rejection, it's redirection. You're not running away from her, you're running toward your strength. And that strength, that quiet control, that steady energy, that's what makes her start thinking about you more than she ever did when you were chasing. You don't need to post anything, prove anything, or try to make her see your growth. When you truly evolve, people can feel it even in your absence. The best way to stay on her mind isn't through games or manipulation, but through genuine transformation. Because when you outgrow the version of herself she once knew, you shift the emotional dynamic completely. You stop existing in her memory as the same man she left. You become someone new, stronger, calmer, more grounded, more focused. And that evolution creates a contrast so powerful that it makes her think about you without even trying. At first, she won't notice the change directly. She might see small signs, the way you no longer react to things that used to bother you, the way you seem more composed, the way you're moving forward without hesitation. She'll tell herself it doesn't matter, that she's over it, that she doesn't care, but deep down she does, because emotional connection isn't built on words. It's built on energy, and energy doesn't lie. When you start walking with purpose again, she feels it. When you start prioritizing your mission instead of her attention, she senses that shift. That's when she starts to realize that she's no longer the center of your world. And that realization stings. People always remember how you made them feel. And when you change how you make yourself feel, that energy radiates outward. You're no longer seeking validation because you've already validated yourself through discipline and growth. You're no longer trying to prove you're good enough because you've already built something that gives you internal confidence. That's the kind of evolution that doesn't need to be announced. It's quiet but undeniable. And that's exactly what gets noticed when she sees that you've evolved. She starts to reflect on her own choices. She starts to wonder if she underestimated your potential. Maybe she thought you'd fall apart without her. Maybe she expected you to chase. But instead you disappeared, rebuilt, and came back stronger, not for her, but for yourself. That kind of transformation creates curiosity. And curiosity keeps you alive in her mind, because people are drawn to growth. They're drawn to the ones who rise after being broken. And here's what's ironic. The moment you stop trying to get her attention is the moment she starts giving it to you. Not because of what you're doing externally, but because of who you've become internally. She'll sense that peace, that new level of self-respect. You no longer react emotionally. You no longer try to explain your worth. You've accepted that her absence doesn't define your value. And that acceptance gives you power. It makes you rare. the more you grow, the more she feels that difference. It's in your tone, your posture, the way you carry yourself. You're no longer chasing approval. You're commanding respect without even asking for it. You've become a man who's at peace with himself, and that's something very few people can ignore. You've stopped playing emotional tug of war and started mastering control. That evolution makes her wonder, not because she's curious about what you were doing, but because she's realizing who you've become without her. Growth is the ultimate reminder. When she sees you standing tall, focused, unbothered, and grounded, it hits differently because that's the version of you she never got to experience. That's the version she didn't think you'd become. And now, without you saying a single word, your presence lingers stronger than ever. So don't chase validation, don't seek her attention, and don't try to prove your worth. Just evolve. Because your growth is the most powerful message you can ever send. She may not reach out, but she'll feel it. And she'll remember the man you became long after the silence fades.